right, so today's essential question is going to take up 2 lines up here. So I'm going to start so that I have enough space to continue down at the bottom. So I'm going to start up here and write, how do you translate reflect and dilate figures on a coordinate plane and or with coordinates only. So as a reminder, you are going to have to be able to reflect a figure across an axis, both drawing it, or if you're just given the coordinates of the vertices, be able to give the coordinates of the prime vertices without drawing it, okay? So typically over here is where we have our questions or our topics, and our notes are going over here. Because this is specifically for a quiz or a test, we're going to go ahead and write the questions over here and then answer them so that we can study that tonight. So the first one, what is translation? Remember, translation is when the figure shifts position only. It doesn't change size. It doesn't change orientation. The figure shifts or changes position only. So that means it does not change shape, size, or orientation. Squeeze that in there. Now there's a couple different ways of translating that you are going to have to know. You can go to the right, to the left, up, or down. And when we're doing that, we talk of it as translating some number of units. So we're going to talk about translating a number of units, and that can be anything. So units right, left, up, or down. To shift to the right, or to translate to the right, you need to add. This means if you have a point, and let's just call that point P for point, that point is going to have an X and a Y coordinate. When we translate that, we now get P prime. And if we are moving to the right, that means the X value is going to increase by whatever value A is. So the X value plus A is the new X coordinate, and the Y coordinate stays the same. If you translate A units left, that means you are going to subtract from your X value. So your X coordinate, you're going to subtract however many units you are shifting to the left. You're going to subtract those from your X value, and your Y stays the same. If you're translating up, that's when you're going to add to the Y value. And if you are translating down, that means you are going to subtract from the Y value. Remember, A is that shift downwards. Now, oftentimes they have you do both a X and a Y shift. So you might be shifting left, so you subtract from X, and you're shifting up, so you add to your Y. You can do those in the same step if you want, or you could do one and then the next translation. The next thing we learned about are reflections. So over here, we're going to skip a line. What is reflection? Okay, so reflection is when the image is flipped. Now there's two ways that you can reflect on a coordinate plane. You can reflect over the y-axis, and this is the one we're most familiar with because this is what we see in a mirror. So when you look at the mirror, you are looking at an image of yourself that is flipped across an X or across a y-axis. Alrighty, I'm not really sure what happened here, but the video stopped as we were taking notes today. And if I remember correctly, we stopped here when we were reflecting over the x-axis and getting the mirror image. So when you have a mirror image, your original point, x and y, are flipped. And when you're reflecting over the y-axis, your y coordinate stays the same, but the x coordinate is flipped, meaning it changes sign. So if it was negative, it's now positive. If it was positive, it is now negative. So that's your p prime. If you're flipping over the x-axis, the image is going to look upside down. And you can see that with kind of shadows or reflections in a lake, where your original point P and its coordinates, if you're flipping over the x-axis, the x stays the same and the y flips. So if it was negative, it becomes positive. If it was positive, it becomes negative. The last one was dilation. Remember, this is where a figure changes size so that it's bigger or smaller. And it's similar figures. They're the same basic shape, okay? It's still a triangle with all the same proportions. It's just bigger or smaller. And to do the coordinates, you're given a scale factor. Now your scale factor, and here we called it A, it could be anything from a fraction, decimal, whole number. In 8th grade, it's only going to be positive, but they'll give you a scale factor, and you take that scale factor and you just multiply it by all the coordinates. So if your point has an x and a y coordinate, your point prime, don't forget your prime symbol, is going to be the x coordinate times A and the y coordinate times A for all points. Thank you.